Planning a fishing trip shouldn't feel like a full-time job. With FishingBooker.com, you can find and book the perfect fishing trip within minutes. FishingBooker.com connects you with trusted fishing captains around the world. Booking is fast, easy, and secure, with access to verified customer reviews, loyalty rewards, and around-the-clock customer support. Everything you need to book with confidence is in one place. So head to FishingBooker.com and start planning your next fishing adventure today.
Well, all right. Welcome back to the Survival and Basic Badass Podcast, Kevin and Chuck. Today, we're going to talk about good fences. It's kind of a broad idea, but basically, since I moved down to the South, one of the things that I really noticed is people set up, I want to say almost garden plots. They want to attract wildlife. They want to make their hunting area, their property, conducive to attracting game and wildlife and making it a habitat that they want to hang around in, which in turn ends up, bringing in your food supply and basically stretching your supplies and resources and, making your life a lot easier when it comes to getting meat. As men, as preppers, we like meat, right? I know there's some girls that listen to this show and I'm the bad guy, alienating and coming up with ideas like that. But, we're meat eaters, right? That's kind of a thing here. We talk about meat, we talk about good things and, anyway. So now I also know on the flip side of that, when you have gardens, your entire life and efforts are put into keeping wildlife out and keeping them away and driving them away from what's going on. So it is kind of a contradiction. And that's, I guess, where that title Good Fences comes in, because you do want distinct areas where you separate the two. But that said, there is a big benefit to bringing in animals and meat. And, I know we've talked in the past about how, in a real shit hits the fan kind of scenario, everybody's like, oh, well, I can go bag a deer and I'm never going to go hungry, and right. That population is going to thin out and it's not going to be the long-term resource. But one, it can be the resource for right now. Free cheap meat is a cool thing. And knowing how to butcher and take care of your meat is a good thing. We did do an episode on how to butcher a deer. There was a great video that I had gotten that I would be happy to, pass along the information of where you could get it. I'll maybe try and get it in the show notes if I can dig it up. But definitely if you're really looking for a good video on how to butcher your meat, shoot me an email at preppingbadass@gmail.com. I'd be happy to, get you in touch with the right information. But that said, it's still having a good environment and especially smaller animals, squirrels, rabbits, that kind of thing. Those things are going to last a little bit longer. They're not the first go-to that people go for when they're, scared and trying to venture into hunting for the first time. So having an environment conducive to these animals could really be the difference in extending your food supply, for many months. So with that, let's kind of get into it. Kevin had some really good ideas on things we could set up to kind of attract what makes a good environment for, wildlife, for animals.
Yeah.
Like what are animals looking for?
Yeah, there's three main things that animals are gonna want, when they want them to visit your property. And it's the same three things that people want, food, water, and shelter.
There was one more that people want, but yeah. Okay.
Now, let's start with food. So, wildlife, especially white-tailed deer, they love things like clover, annual legumes like field peas, cereal grains like oats, rye, wheat. These are all things, corn, these are all things that we grow, that at least that I grow, here and there, different seasons. I try different things.
They like apple trees.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, fruit trees are a great one. I know. Deer, keeping deer out of your garden is a big deal, because they'll hop right over a 4-foot fence,
Yes.
So I try and keep my food garden really close to the house. You know what I mean? That way I can keep my eye on it. I can look out the window and see what's messing around out there. So planning food specifically for wildlife, is not a bad idea. I used to go crazy trying to keep a nice clean lawn, like an idiot, just grass, and get rid of the clovers and the weeds and all that sort of stuff.
Right.
Now I've let clover basically take over the whole yard. I've got more clover than I do grass. And clover used to be something that was considered like a good, healthy lawn. But what was it? What was the weed killer company that was giving everybody cancer?
Monsanto, but it's Roundup.
Roundup, right?
Roundup.
So
what you're looking for?
There was a big campaign when they came out with Roundup. It was great because it killed everything except for grass. And there was a big campaign to convince people that clover were weeds because the Roundup was killing clover. But really, for hundreds of years, people intentionally grew clover. That draws a lot of deer. Rabbits love it. Bees love it.
Rabbits do
a
love
lot
it.
of great wildlife go for the clove. Yep. And in some places, clover will grow, all year round. Down, real far down south, it'll get too hot for a couple of months, and up north, it'll get, too cold for a couple of months. But the truth is, clover, grows great most of the year in most climates. So, it's a great food source, and it's real easy to grow. It's not even something that you have to, you can go out and plant a whole field of clover for, real cheap, and it'll grow by itself. You don't have to be out there, watering it and messing with it all the time.
Right.
Another thing that attracts wildlife, you have to have a good water source.
Yes.
I've got a nice little stream on the back of my property. A lot of people don't have a stream or a creek or a pond or anything, but you can set up water sources. You can set up watering tanks, and you can set up, even small kids pools. Those $10 swimming pools that you get for the little kids on from the dollar store or Dollar General or something. You can fill those up and leave them out, and you'll be surprised the amount of animals that come out to get a drink when you're in an area that doesn't have a lot of water around.
Right.
One of the other things that we want to talk about, though, is shelter. Animals require a lot of shelter, specifically when it comes to white-tailed deer. You want to have a couple of things that are going to attract them and be desirable for them. So you want travel corridors. You want to have a way that the animal can get through, get to your property from other properties without having to cross roads or having to cross, streams or anything like that. You want to have them. You want to make it so that it's accessible for larger animals coming through your property. Make
Right.
it part of their daily or weekly stop. A lot of white-tailed deer have a area that they stick to, and they kind of migrate through that area, every day, every couple of days, and having access to your property from other properties is a good way to kind of facilitate them coming through. Now you want to have bedding areas too, which generally is higher grass areas. I don't like that stuff on my property. It attracts insects, it attracts ticks. I live
And
like
rodents
right
and,
in all sorts of stuff. I live right in Lyme disease central in this area. So I try and keep the lawns shorter. But teach their own, I guess. I don't hunt a lot of white-tailed deer. I prefer my gardens, but I know a lot of the guys listening to the podcast are big hunters. So that's kind of why we're doing this episode, right?
Right.
Now, one of the things that that deer love is all wildlife love is the forest edges, and a lot of us have these forest edges that it goes like right from trees right to grass,
Yeah.
and that's not conducive because it kind of startles animals. You know what I mean? To go right from cover out into the open, and you'll see a lot of big bucks will wait at the edge of the forest until dusk before they'll come out. But you can make a more gradual distinction between the two. Go from trees to shrubbery, from trees to like blackberry bushes, blueberry bushes, raspberries, that sort of stuff. And it takes a little bit of work to kind of keep that gradual change going. So, I mean, it's just something to keep in mind that, might be a little bit more conducive to bringing some of the wildlife onto your property.
Yeah. One of the things I learned, as a trapper, is that nature loves other nature. And that's kind of, what you're getting at is, they want to be around other stuff, and because it makes them feel safe. And also that's where the food's going to be, right? You like to eat little animals or even bigger animals. Bigger animals like to eat littler animals, and little animals eat even smaller animals. And just throwing up like the wood pile or whatever in the middle of nowhere, they always said it with trapping, if you look out into a field, where is the best place to set a trap? And they're like, look for the highest point kind of thing. And it's going to be, a stump in the middle of the field, an old tractor laying there, that broken farm implement. Because when you go out there, that's where the mice are going to be. That's where, and so the animals are going to come over and check out, hey, what can I eat over here? And each thing progressively, as animals get bigger, are looking for that environment. They're looking for something that's going to stand out, but it's going to attract little things because everything, like you said, is looking for shelter. They're looking for that area. But also, the water source seems to be a great one. I'm kind of torn back and forth on whether I dig a big pond. I end up, it rains quite a bit where I am. And I end up having, I have a big shooting lane that's I dug down kind of into the clay to kind of make a long, narrow alley. And it ends up pooling up water in there. And it's pretty awesome because I have the nice backstop set up. And when I go out there, that's where the deer, I come out, I see the deer just sitting there in the middle of my shooting
range.
Yeah. Like, hey, this is where we want to be, because I have big puddles of water. But, it's like, hey, let me come out and get a drink. And what's cool is it's an opening where I have woods on either side. And so the animals feel kind of safe and protected, because they don't kind of recognize, hey, I'm in the middle of a big opening here, because they see woods all around them. It doesn't kind of connect as much as a big field.
Right.
But it's like a little break in the woods, and they stop to get their drink, So that's something to consider. Also, but the big food plots just for animals, they do the turnips and the bigger things and like you said, lagoons and stuff like that. And just, running the tractor with a tiller or, breaking up a section and throwing down some seed is so easy to do. A lot easier when you have a tractor and a tiller, but even so, digging up a long row and throwing some feed in there. And you can also kind of pick some things that are going to come back year after year. I'm sure the clover is going to, keep coming back, things like that. You can really, have an environment that costs you almost nothing to maintain. And, it can really bring in a lot of wildlife. And, if the animals come and eating it all is serving a good purpose, I know some states it's not appropriate to feed animals and attract them in like that. We won't talk about that.
There's definitely laws about baiting animals. I know a lot of people that are hunters that bait animals on their property just because, not to hunt them, but just to watch them. And they go to different properties to hunt. And that's fine. But if in a bad situation, but in a bad situation, it might not be bad to have animals being comfortable coming through your property on a regular basis. If you can't get to the grocery store, then nobody's going to be getting to your property to make sure that you're not baiting deer and things like that. I'm just putting that out there. I'm not saying break your local laws, but
no.
Something to keep in mind. And when it comes to like small game, like you were saying, Chuck, there's ways to kind of facilitate small game. One of the things that I've made this mistake myself is that when I'm clearing land, I usually just get a big fire going with all the extra brush that goes through, that's coming out. But those brush piles, you might want to save, one or two of those. Now you want to stick to like smaller brush piles, and that'll attract things like woodchucks, rabbits, things like that. But you don't want to like push your brush into a pile with a backhoe or something, because it'll pile up a lot of dirt around it. And that sort of brush pile is going to attract foxes, raccoons, predators that you don't necessarily want on your property, especially if you're raising chickens or ducks or, whatever it is you guys like to have around. Having the coyotes and foxes and things around isn't really great. I love duck, I love rabbit. I love those kinds of smaller animals, that might be on your property.
I think the FDA said that rabbits are the healthiest meat that people have in their normal consumption. So, and I know rabbits aren't really in a lot of people's normal consumption, but just the same, they're really a healthy choice.
They are really healthy animals. Now, a lot of people look at eating woodchuck with like disdain, but woodchuck is a lot like rabbit. Tastes very similar. They're vegetarians. The meat's actually really good. And a lot of people think of them as like eating rats, the same sort of shit. But honestly, woodchuck is a good source of meat. And, I spend my whole life just running woodchucks off. Let's just say that.
Yes.
Trying to get rid of the woodchucks in my property. They just love your garden. They'll always figure out a way to get in there, man. But one of the things that I've found,
digging my fences deeper and building higher fences and I thought I was so good and whatever. And then I'm like staking out and they're smart. Like I had to like really hide and set up hides, and I'd have to look in different places. So if I shoot at one and it doesn't work out, that shooting spot is gone. Cause no joke, anytime I watch, the woodchuck will come out and he'll be staring right where I shot from, and he'll keep looking over there. Where are you? Are you there? Are you there? And then when I come around and get him from the other side, it works out. But you can't use and you're thinking they're not that smart. They're that smart. They're always watching. And I'm like, you jerk, And so that's the thing. Like the first time you shoot at them, you got the big window. They're oblivious to whatever. They don't worry about the humans. But if you take your shot and miss, it's going to end bad for you, because that guy's going to be on guard and be ready from there on out. So something to be aware of. Just know that, take your shot, make it count, because they're a little sharper than you might think. And that, or they're just outsmarting me. Anyway, I did set up where I'm out there like laying in the grass and it's tall grass because I let the yard grow a little bit, and I'm sneaking up, crouching on him. That guy, I had a 4-foot fence. He just climbed up over the side and right over the top. And I'm like, what? A woodchuck? You can't. That's not fair.
You wouldn't think that. Yeah. Right.
But you put a couple bullets in him. He didn't, with the 22, he didn't get over the fence so easy that time.
It was a little bit more difficult. Yeah.
It's a little more difficult.
Now, one of the things that I've found kind of helps discourage the woodchucks from getting in the garden is when you build a fence, I build wire fences, either, some sort of a chicken wire type thing with posts. If you don't have a top rail on your fence, and let that fence just kind of wobble. Yeah. They don't like that as much. They don't like going over that. If there's a log or a board at the top holding your fence post together, they use that to pull themselves up and over. Right. Doesn't stop them, but it definitely discourages them a little bit from getting in there. Also, I have dogs that love to chew up woodchucks, so that's
You said it's your small, tiny dog that does the best job, right? With tracking them down.
Yeah, I've got a bigger herding dog, an Australian Shepherd, and he loves chasing the woodchucks, but when he gets up close to him, he doesn't have that killer instinct. He's more of a defense dog than a hunting dog. But I've got a little dog that I have to admit I really never liked it. It was kind of one of those yappy dogs the wife wanted, and was not happy with it. But then, man, when she gets out in the woods and catches those woodchucks, man, she just fucks them up, man. She really does. She'll go down right in the hole after them and pull babies out of there and chew them up. She's a little monster when it comes to that sort of stuff. So she's earning her keep now. I can't say anything bad about her anymore.
You can't complain about that.
Now, when you guys are building like a food plot for animals, specifically smaller game animals, one of the things to keep in mind is you want to do the opposite of what you do with your garden. You want to have kind of, like you were saying, higher grass around the food plots, because it's going to give those animals kind of a little bit of cover where they feel comfortable coming out, and then, they'll kind of watch the food plot, and look around where they feel safe, and then they'll go out into the open. And if you can sit there waiting for them in a place where you've got a little bit of cover, they'll walk right out in front of your rifle. So, I really don't really do a lot of work to keep the grass from getting tall around my gardens, around my fences. It keeps bugs out, it keeps rodents out. But when you're setting up a food plot to attract the animals,
it's the opposite.
That's a great way to do it. It's the opposite, right?
Another thing, when you're laying out your food plot, you might want to consider where is going to be my hiding spot. Where am I going to be able to safely shoot without having to worry about what's behind it, and think of the angles and how you want to be, that you're not shooting back at your house, or you're able to be up in a tree where you're shooting down at the animal, somewhere you can safely shoot, and that'll be easy for you, and easy for you to have concealment, and easy for you to be effective as a hunter. Think of your dream hunting situation and lay out your food plot accordingly. If you put a little thought in beforehand, you can have, better outcomes time after time, in the future. So like you said, making the animal feel comfortable, but also setting yourself up to have, the opportunity to really, move in safely and securely will, make a big difference.
Right. Another thing to keep in mind when you're clearing your land and setting these food plots up is leaving a few mature trees up, especially trees that are going to attract things like squirrels. I know a lot of people don't go for hunting squirrel and don't go for eating squirrel. I think that's a stupid idea to have in your mind, that you're not going to eat a squirrel. But a lot of things like oak, hickory, chestnut trees, those really, those kind of nut trees are really going to keep a lot of squirrels coming through. And having a couple of bigger mature trees out in the open is going to give you a lot of good views on things that are coming through, like the squirrels and some of the larger game birds and things like that. Mm-hmm. So nut trees and also you had mentioned earlier fruit trees. Deer really love fruit trees, like you said, apple trees, peach trees, pear trees, whatever grow in your area.
Well, one of the
they
things,
love those fruit trees.
Deer they'll eat the wood. I mean, they'll chew on the branches and whatever with the apple tree and just right down. I come out and would be, in New York, I had a bunch of apple trees and man, they would just eat those things down where I'm like, I don't know if the tree's going to live, so it can be a little frustrating, but if you put enough out there and you kind of have to buy them a little more mature. What I've found, if you're trying to go the opposite way, where you're keeping the deer out of your apple trees so you can eat apples, that's the reason a lot of people grow apple trees, it turns out.
Believe it or not, yeah.
I have planted garlic around the base of it, and that really did a good job. We tried, somebody had told me we used to hang a bell from the branches. So the deer would go out and he would try and snack on the apples and they'd hear the bell ring and that would kind of freak him out a little bit. That actually worked. But we really had the best
success. It doesn't sound like something that would work. That's
planting garlic around the base of it. So if you're trying to go the opposite way, because some of you, I imagine, are cursing us right now going, are you kidding me? All I do is try and keep the deer out of my fruit trees. And I get that. And that has its place.
Right.
We're just, that's not this episode. But I'm telling you, planting garlic. So obviously, planting garlic is not what you want to do anywhere near where you're trying to bring in wildlife. That's another secret of the pros right there.
But. Right. But, really it comes down to what your property is, how your property is set up. If you've got 20 acres, if you've got 1 acre, the types of things that you're going to do. You're going to want to provide food and resources for these animals to attract them. Even setting up things like bird feeders and stuff like that is going to attract wildlife. And there's a lot of birds that are edible, that aren't tiny little animals, but not turkey size. But there's some larger birds that you can take if you're really hungry.
Bald
they make
eagles,
bird shot for a reason. Delicious, right?
I was just poking you in the ribs there a little bit. I wasn't actually. That's not.
Yeah, but we're
trying to rattle you.
When we set up our properties, a lot of the time we think about how to protect our vegetables and things like that more than we do trying to keep animals out. It's if you've got a half acre, you might want to focus on keeping the animals off of your property so you can grow vegetables rather than trying to draw them in.
Right.
But it's up to you. It's up to how you want to do things and how you want to survive. If you're an avid hunter, maybe setting up your property for wildlife is more important than setting it up for gardening.
Well, I think it definitely comes down to, like you just said, how much land you actually have, affects everything. A lot of times, certain areas land is cheap and it's easy to come by, but it seems less and less in America, right? That's we're definitely losing that battle of free land. I think George Soros owns it all now, but who knows?
Yeah, so that sounds good. Now, that's all I got for the game. for the drawing game in. Now, let's talk real quick about some fencing.
All right.
There's a lot of ways to fence in your garden and fence in your property even. And one of the things that I've started to do now is growing just pricker bushes in general. Great pricker bushes are, things like raspberries and blackberries are great for that. If you set it up around your perimeter, it's gonna kind of keep people hesitating to cut through your yard. In a situation like that, I know a lot of people. A friend of mine was telling me that he had just bought a new house out, up in the mountains there, and had some property cleared out. And he was having a cup of coffee on his front porch and saw some asshole walking across his field with a shotgun, like hunting in on his property.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck, dude? Oh, you've been hunting here for years.
I have permission from the owner.
Yeah,
I hear that all the time. And I'm like, no, you don't.
I am the owner, dickhead.
No.
Yeah, you don't. Yeah, so I mean, so keeping hunters off of your property, I feel like I feel very hesitant to tell people that they can't hunt on my land. But when it comes to strangers that I don't know, I don't want you walking through my property with a fucking rifle. You know what I mean? Get the fuck out of here. If I know you, I can invite you over and say, if you want to, do some deer hunting, you can come by and use the woods by my house and no problems. But, if I know you, I don't want just random assholes walking through my property, so
you're not getting
when it
my
comes
buck.
to fencing,
All right.
right. When it comes to fencing, you want to be able to kind of protect your property from people just walking through. And so you want to have corridors for wildlife to come through, but you also want to be able to see. You want to be able to see where those corridors are from wherever, your living room or your kitchen, when you look out your window. You want to be able to keep track of what and who is coming through your property. And I think that's that's something that you can do just by setting up your property with fences in the right spots, But, pricker bushes and things like that, they don't work out well for fences around your gardens, because the stuff that is going to eat your garden is going to be the stuff that walks right through those pricker bushes.
And it's down. Yeah.
What's that?
That's the
What's
negative.
that story about Brer Rabbit and Brer Fox?
Yeah, there you go. So, exactly. I mean, animals, shrubbery is not going to be what deters animals. What I have seen, like I'd mentioned, growing garlic, something like that, that is a deterrent. And again, it's going to protect a small area. It depends how much garlic you're willing to plant. Turns out buying it, not as cheap as you might think, getting started. But obviously, for every one you plant, you get like 5 back, so it multiplies year after year. You can kind of build up your inventory. But that said, I had just done, we do a couple of different things for fencing here. And I had my wife wanted a huge kind of garden area. I don't know, huge for fenced, I guess is the answer. So what we ended up doing is, I think it's like 150 feet kind of square, like 150 feet on each side. And what I had done was I bought, they call it field fence. Now, if you guys know field fence, it's got big holes. It's like maybe at least 5-inch by 5-inch, big squares. So the bunnies are just like walking through it. They're not even, thinking twice. But I was able to buy that at like 48 inches or something like that. It might even been 60 inches, something like that. And I ran that around the whole perimeter, but then came back. And this is not maybe the best way for everybody. But what I did after that was I bought rabbit fence. Now, rabbit fence is, you can buy it, I know at Tractor Supply, like 28 inches or 40 inches tall. Again, if I was using it standalone, I'd want at least the 40 inches. But what I was able to do is buy the 28-inch and then put it right against the other field fence. So with that, and then I used hog rings. Have you ever used hog rings?
No, I don't even know what that is.
They use it. Yeah, me either, till somebody just told me. They were like, well, why aren't you using hog rings? And I'm like, what are you talking about? So they use it for like upholstery with furniture and well, I think with furniture, but also with like your car upholstery and that kind of stuff. But they sell a pair of pliers and these little metal clips that you just twist and put together. Anyway, worked out great to put, you buy a bag of 1,000 clips for like $8 or something like that. And I sit out there in the field like an idiot and I'm putting the fences together. But the thing is, with the two fences combined, I was able to have something really rigid that you couldn't just lift up and slide underneath. Now, again, some places I know in New York, I had to dig a trench and bury the fence like 6 or 8 inches or even 10 inches in order to be effective. But where I am now, the ground is a lot, tougher, so that I found that I was able to just, go right to the ground. But it's so rigid, being the two fences combined, that animals weren't just picking it up and sneaking under. And so far, it's been working out good. Now, that stopped the rabbits and the small animals like that. But then on the flip side, you still have to worry about deer. So I did taller posts, and I ran electric fence wire around the top. So far, I haven't even bothered to, set up the electric part. I just ran the wire going up 8 feet tall, like in foot increments, to keep the deer from jumping in. And that's worked out. That was, I want to say, a cost-effective way, but I hate to say it. That big garden, that cost me about $1,200 worth of fence. Yeah. I mean, it's
what do you
not,
think? You said 100 foot, 150 feet
150 by 150. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good size plot.
That's a big plot. And most people, honestly, they grow enough excess when they're doing that large of an area that they're kind of like, well, I'll let some wildlife come in and take what they take, but they're not going to take it all.
Right.
You see the big cornfields on the side of the road, and they're not, there's no fence. You're like, well, how do they keep the deer?
And there's always deer out there. Yeah. They don't. The deer coming through and getting what they want. But,
and they take what they
when
want.
You have that sort of size.
It depends. The crop that we had is, valuable enough that you didn't want to lose it to the animals, that it's worth having the fence. So that's, you weigh out what you're doing. Honestly, that garden, in my case, my wife has a bit of a flower farm going, and flowers aren't as cheap as you might think. And some of them are, annuals or whatever. And, you're stuck where you gotta really get the most out of it. You can't lose it to animals. So, but again, it depends what you're trying to do. If money, again, it's all money and time, you outweigh what you have and available to you, and you do things accordingly. But definitely think about what you're doing. Think about what's effective. I was into barbed wire, would have been a great option for the top. But my wife's like, oh, you're out at work and I'm not dealing with animals getting stuck in the barbed wire. And I have to go out and, fight it off kind of thing, cut it out, whatever, is involved in that instance. And I've had friends who have horses and goats, and they're like, never use barbed wire because, pulling an animal out of there is never anything you want to do. Again, you decide what's right for you. Just know there's options out there, for you to, find the best way to do it.
Yeah. Now, this might be common sense. You made a good point earlier. But when it comes to trying to be cost effective, obviously the biggest plot with the least amount of fence is going to be a square. The longer and longer you make a rectangle, the more fence you're going to have to use for a smaller amount of land. So if you're trying to be cost effective, a square is the best way to go. As
like
far
mine
as
ended up,
versus
that one ended up
square footage.
Right. that one ended up being more like a trapezoid. And what it was the tree line ended up dictating, how I had to shape it. But that's, you do, but like you said, spending money, you want to get the most bang for your buck, and a square seems to be, the way to do it. But, you do what you gotta. And also, I mean, I know in my case with that one, it was how can I get the tractor in and maneuver and be able to get close to the edges and get in with the tiller and different things where I can still move, but I'm not losing square foot of garden area, So that's all something to consider and weigh out. But that's basically what I got.
So I'm starting to finally get some good produce coming in every day now.
I like that.
Past my time for asparagus, but I'm on to the tomatoes are just starting to ripen up. All the
you're killing me, dude.
We're
coming to the end of our tomato season. I was at the farmer's market.
Oh, really?
Yesterday,
I've only had 3.
I've got
I've got bushes
like,
and bushes full of green tomatoes.
Yeah. They're like, we ran to the end of tomatoes. Nobody's got tomatoes anymore. And I'm like, now we're on watermelons, peppers, and I don't know. It's about an okra is actually the big thing here, and tobacco.
I haven't grown okra. I tried to grow okra this year, but it just didn't work out. I don't know if I bought crap seed or if I did something else wrong, but it never even started coming up this year.
Not being a Southerner and knowing how things work, we ended up with a bunch of like 8 or 9 inch long okra that are like hard as rocks that you can't even cut with a knife. And you're like, what the heck? So I'm talking to the ladies at the farmer's market yesterday, and they're like, okra is a everyday thing. You have to be out there picking it every single day. And as soon as they're, 2 inches long or whatever, you pick them and you get them inside. And the one lady's like, I like to go to about 3 or 4 inches, but nobody's like, I like to go to 8 inches and whatever. Because it just turns into a rock. It's like a squash or whatever, where you just have like a, hard, impossible, you're out there with the cleaver trying to get through it. I don't know. It's not good, but I don't know. Teach his own, right? Live and learn. That's what they say.
Mm-hmm.
I think we have a lot
the second year I've grown corn. Oh yeah. I grew a lot. I've got a lot of eggplant this year, and there's one vegetable I hate, man. It's eggplant. I can't stand it. My wife wanted it. She loves it, but I mean, I'm never going to eat that shit, and it just keeps coming in.
And then
every
people
day
are like, it's not horrible
eggplant.
if you fry it. And I'm like, nothing is horrible if you fry it, right? I mean, that's
if you deep fry dog shit, you can eat it.
You can eat it.
Like anything you deep fry. You fry it,
especially you fry it in animal fat.
I like my raw vegetables, and I love raw vegetables. And eggplant is not the one to eat raw.
Yeah,
but if any of you guys have some recipes for eggplant that can make it palatable, let me know. But I haven't been able to enjoy it. I eat it. Don't get me wrong. I eat just about anything, but I don't like it.
That's it.
But
so. All right, that's what I got. So you guys know you have ideas, you have eggplant recipes, whatever you want to share with us, you can email us at preppingbadass@gmail.com. Now, we don't always respond right away. Sometimes also I'll read them and be like, oh, that's a Kevin email. And, I kind of let it sit, and Kevin's like a once a week checker kind of guy, and they take a little bit to, get responded to and whatever, but we definitely respond to everybody, and we're into, hearing what you guys have to say. We definitely appreciate it. You also want to get in touch with us maybe a little sooner. You could try joining the Prepping Badass Facebook group, or you could also, we have a Facebook page that's like Survival Prepping, I think it is. I don't even know. No, it's Prepping Badass. And anyway, you can also email us at preppingbadass@gmail.com, I was saying. And I think that's it. So The with that, stay safe. Well, no, you could also Patreon. I'm forgetting everything here.
Oh, that's
you
right.
enjoying the show, you might want to support us on Patreon at patreon.com/preppingbadass, where if you donate as little as $1 a month, you can get a badass patch that I don't know, that looks like something. I don't know. It's got a cool logo, whatever. Anyway, with that, stay safe, and we'll talk to you guys next week. All right. So, what else you got? You.
Oh, well, tell me
Go.
about your truck here. You got your new truck. What kind is it?
Oh, we got the 2011 Ram 1500. Big 35-inch tires, because I don't know why you wouldn't want that. I actually just had to get a speedometer calibrator to set things up to make them match up, because otherwise I'm going like, it says 55 and I think I'm going 62 or something like that. And
it's not quite accurate, huh? Yeah, you don't want to get in trouble for that. Yeah.
And I was told you can go to the dealer and they're like, oh, that's not a factory size tire, screw you, we can't do it. But there's special things you can order to make it happen. So
ways you can do it.
Yeah. No, I'm embracing
nice.
The redneck life. There is what I'm saying.
Yeah. How's that Dodge doing? Are you still have that Dodge pickup?
So the Dodge, the rear end gave out. That was thing. So that's what pushed me into buying a new truck, and by new I mean 2011. Because that's about as close as I'll ever get to a $50,000 truck, right? Anyway, so I just bought a equipment trailer. You guys know I have a tractor, like a Kubota or something, bucket, whatever, tiller and bush hog and that kind of crap. So I was like, man, it'd be cool if I could go make some money. So it'd be cool if I had a trailer and whatever, could go and go hustle with it, I guess. So I think I'm all cool. I take my crappy, rusty old 96 Dodge that's so full of New York rust, it's unbelievable. The leaf springs had been pushing up through the back bed, and I had to put new shackles in the back to hold it all. It was a disaster, right? And I'm like, all right, I can go get this trailer. I get this cool equipment trailer, like 20 foot, I'm the man. And I'm driving it home and the freaking rear end just gives out and I'm stuck on the side of the road. And I'm like, that's it. Yeah, with the trailer. So the upside is I was able to load the truck onto the trailer that I was pulling. And I called up one of my buddies that had a dually and was like, oh, and he's like, I'll go home and get my trailer. I'm like, I don't need it. All I need is you to just bring your trailer hitch and your pickup and tow me home. And the truck's been a fight where I'm doing repairs on it all the time. But I finally decided, I was like, it hadn't left me on the side of the road. That's the kind of end. I don't like when I'm standing there and it's 98 degrees outside and I'm standing there for hours waiting for somebody to save me. That's like too far, And I'm not saying, I can't handle things like that. I'm just saying I don't want to put myself in a position like that. As a prepper, I'm like, no, that ain't going to work for me. So I finally broke down and, went and bought a reasonably new truck and, kind of moved myself into the right direction. And of course it's a little bigger and a little cooler than, nice aftermarket exhaust sounds good, whatever. Little redneck. I want to get the Randy Marsh for president. I thought this was America sticker on the back of it or something. And, let people know I'm a man's man.
You're not going to be flying the Trump flag and the American flag off either side of the truck?
But, that's an option, right? I'm in the South. They still fly rebel flags down here even. It's bad.
Oh, okay. All right.
And I'm like, I don't want to quite get associated with that. It comes with too much negative connotation, You end up And I figured the Trump flag is just as bad. I don't know, man. It's bad here. I have people who I looked at a house here, and one of the neighbors is like flying like the KKK flag in the front lawn, and I'm like, that's even a thing? Like I didn't even
in your front lawn.
In there, yeah, exactly. I'm like, embrace it, I guess. And it's funny. My realtor is a nice black lady and whatever, and we just switched it around because they sent somebody over. Oh, this house isn't for sale. You can't buy this house. And we were just playing it up like she was the one going to buy it, my realtor. And because she's like, no, I'm moving in. And we had a good time with it. You got to keep people guessing, right?
That's right. That's right.
I was like, yeah, I can't live next to those people. But it was a little too far from where I was working and, whatever. I was like, I can't do it. But it did have like a 2-acre pond. And she's like, I got a ton of black friends that would come over and fish in your pond every day. We could really keep your neighbors guessing. And I'm like, yeah. I'm like, that would happen. There you go. I was like, all day. I was like, I would have a barbecue every day. Y'all be coming over and it'd be good. I'm like, because, if I can't piss off somebody, why even live, right?
That's, right, exactly. I live for pissing off my neighbors, So I had somebody call the cops on me a couple years ago because I was setting off. I wasn't. My friend was setting off dynamite in the backyard just for fun.
Who hasn't seen that play out?
Apparently people get upset when you're blowing shit up in your backyard. So I don't know. The cops showed up, but by the time they got here, everything had been blown up, and it was
you
all
just got to be like, I heard that too. What?
Yeah, I don't know what that was. I think somebody was setting off fireworks. I don't know.
Lord. Well, why are all these explosions and burn marks in your yard? I don't know. That's weird, right?
Yeah, so strange. Yeah. No, but
here we have like tannerite and all that. Everybody's blowing up things all the time. We're shaking the windows.
Right.
But
yeah. So I've been working on now. I've got a little stream on my back property, and I've been working on just kind of damming it up a little bit, make a little pond. And it's coming along because I've got ducks, so I've got pools and little things like that for them. But I like to have a somewhat natural environment for them that's a little bit more conducive. I don't think it's going to be big enough that I'm going to be able to stock it with fish. But my neighbor just built a pond, and he's really got it set up nice. He had his friend come over with a backhoe and just dug a giant hole, put a $200 liner in there, and his kid went and stole a koi fish from somebody's pond. So now he's got a big 3-foot koi fish. I've never seen one this big, just swimming around in his pond out there. Those things are,
I guess they're big money, right? Yeah, they're not cheap.
Yeah, they're not cheap. But I don't know why you'd want. I guess you can eat koi, but I don't know why you would want to eat something that's that valuable.
I think people who cook food like you and I don't go for koi fish. Mm-hmm. But I think there's some kind of sushi end of it that people go that way. It's like the sushi. That's where that all works out. And that's where the price kind of gets up there. But we had looked at aquaponics and stuff. We had talked about it for the podcast in the past and whatever. Everybody sells here. It's very common. Facebook's filled with those big plastic water containers, the big white ones with the cage on it. I don't know. They're everywhere around me. And setting up aquaponic systems with those, the idea keeps coming up in my head, but it's another project. It's more money laid out. It's all right, I can do another $600 project. And it's going to be another 3 days of work, to get that set up and kind of going. And it's one more
with those
thing,
aquaponics, the more I look at it, those aquaponics, that has to be your whole life. You know what I mean?
It seems like it.
Because you miss one day working on it, fucking with it, a pump goes out or something, that's it. Everything's dead. All the fish are dead. All the plants are dead. Yeah. You just
it's
have
another
to be
thing that
constantly
it's
doing
like,
it.
it's like
Yeah.
what projects can own me, and that's,
Mhm.
and I
Yeah,
like to play with
even just
guns
trying
and
to keep up
pickup
with a
trucks.
vegetable
So,
garden.
right,
Yeah,
right. I want to play with
yeah,
guns and
and even
pickup
keeping up
trucks,
with anything. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. That's something. What do they say? Make money doing what you know, and pay people to do what they know how to do.
Yeah.
But I try and be somewhat of a Renaissance man in the sense that I could have a little bit of knowledge on everything. But
Right.
it's a little bit those aquaponic setups. I just I love the idea of them. It just seems that like it's that owns your life. Those things, and it's a lot of work to keep it working right.
Yeah, that's it. I don't know. I go out and do my electrician thing and make my money, and then pay the grocery store instead of the off grid.
Exactly.
Life. But
yeah,
you do what you can do.
Mm-hmm. That's right. That's right. Got to keep the lights on.
All right, I guess we'll go out and do some work, get life going here, but I don't know. All right.
Yeah, I got to get out and feed all the animals, so I'll talk to you later on, bud.
All right, later.
The Survival and Basic Badass podcast is a proud member of the Self-Defense Radio Network.
Planning a fishing trip shouldn't feel like a full-time job. With FishingBooker.com, you can find and book the perfect fishing trip within minutes. FishingBooker.com connects you with trusted fishing captains around the world. Booking is fast, easy, and secure, with access to verified customer reviews, loyalty rewards, and around-the-clock customer support. Everything you need to book with confidence is in one place. So head to FishingBooker.com and start planning your next fishing adventure today.